Folks, hello and welcome to Iron Rations, which is the twice a month Friday live stream with myself and Joe the lawyer.
Hi, everybody. How you doing this week? It's been a couple weeks. We're into spring now. I think it's finally decent weather here.
Hit 81 degrees in the outer boroughs of Queens today, New York City. I was duly impressed. I was like, I can't believe it. And unlike last year, where at this point in the year I was basically homebound. With I guess I was post pneumonia and I was post sepsis and having sepsis effects. But my spring didn't really come into play until June.
Fall?
When I
Maybe fall,
June when it started becoming like, oh wow, I can go outside and enjoy it. So I enjoyed today. I walked the dog.
That's cool.
The dog walked us because she chooses the path. We don't. We don't choose the path.
From one fire hydrant to the other. Now, was it that hot in Queens because the sun beat down on the asphalt so much, and all of Queens is asphalt? Is that it? Just radiated heat?
I don't know, because initially they were saying it's going to be 75, 76, and then it hit like 81 and windy. So, like I mentioned before the show, my baseball cap blew off my head, and I had to go running after it. That was. And I was right at the beginning, and Rick's like, "Oh, we got to put it in our pocket." I'm like, "Screw that! I'll just tighten the hat up." Now it's not comfortable. I always like to wear my hats loose so they're nice and comfy. That's it. So then it hit the uncomfortable range, but at least it didn't fly off my head.
You could always go 80s aerobics headband, man. You got that neon pink or something, or that bright yellow, or
Joe, all due respect, but fuck you. No, I'm not gonna go neon pink.
Break out the spandex.
The last person that you want to see in spandex is my ass.
Dude, I got more of the mayonnaise ass going on than you do. Trust me.
The two of us in spandex, holding hands, walking down the street will certainly get looks.
We'll get looks, and people will be hurling if they saw me in spandex. But
like, what the fuck did we just? We would probably be like trending on Twitter or something like that. Somebody would have taken a picture and go, two clueless individuals who have no idea how bad they look, and be on them because we know exactly how bad we look.
Oh yeah. I look bad. I mean, just today, I had to go outside today, and I went to get. I work from home, right? So that means I'm doing things online and video as the rest of the world, right? So until we go back in person, so I'm doing the video conferences and yada yada. And of course, I'm like everybody else. I'm doing it in sweatpants and slippers on the bottom, and I'm doing the shirt and tie on top, right? And so I don't even tuck the shirt in because I'm sitting. Who the hell's going to see it, right?
Wasn't there a commercial like that where the wife is having a Zoom meeting and her husband walks into the room behind her in his tidy whities and his like sleep shirt, and it's like, no, are you live?
Well, I had to go out and get the mail, so I went downstairs, and I'm oblivious to how I look, and I go downstairs. I'm walking outside down the driveway up to the front, and I realize as I'm taking the mail out of the box, I'm like, oh shit, I look like a fool. But I'm like, you know what? I'm 50. I don't give a shit. Beyond that, whatever, man.
No, dude. Dude, I actually earlier this week, my doorbell is ringing constantly, and I have a Ring doorbell, so I'm looking and I'm like, all right, that's not a delivery person. Why is this woman ringing my doorbell and looking at my Ring camera? The visual for those at home, it looked like this. So I was like, oh geez. So let me go down and. Not realizing it went down. It's like, oh, at least I'm wearing a shirt, but I was also wearing my boxer briefs.
Oh yeah,
they were dark colors. They didn't necessarily look like underwear. Maybe I was working out. Sure, but in any case,
on the boxers. No, they're not boxers. They're underwear. Look, plenty of time I had to go outside for a quick run or something. Yeah.
But their car had been broken into overnight. I guess it was a livery. They broke that little back butterfly-ish window, and her husband or boyfriend he explained to me he left his wallet in the car.
Oh shit!
And it's like, what?
There's a fool.
Yeah, but my Ring camera doesn't really it catches the street, but it doesn't catch any movement. So unless you're like halfway up my steps, it doesn't actually go on. So You know,
Matt Jackson has joined the chat. What's up,
no,
Matt?
we got Matt, we got David in the chat room, folks.
Oh,
By
yeah.
the way, if you are listening on Facebook and you want to participate, and you want to leave comments, I'm going to tell you right now, log into YouTube because we will not see any Facebook commentary. Initially, we would get Facebook would come through and it would say anonymous user, and that's fine. I can make fun of the anonymous users, but what happens now is that they don't even go through as an anonymous user. So
Really?
I'll log in to Facebook after this live chat, and I'll see, it's like, oh look, so and so is chatting away, and I wasn't commenting because I wasn't reading it. So again, please, YouTube, we enjoy the feedback. It makes us better. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like, comment. It helps the algorithm. It helps us grow. The more we grow, the better the podcast, the better the cast. The better the cast. Let's just call it a cast now, right? It's just
I guess. I don't even know. I can't keep up with these newfangled terms. Hey, speaking of newfangled, man, GaryCon going on right this weekend. That's all electronic, right? All virtual. It looks like
it's all virtual. And then remember, GaryCon was the first major convention in our sphere of things. Last year, that got stuck going to virtual. TotalCon happened. That was in person, and then the world came to a crashing end shortly thereafter. So GaryCon quickly had to put together a digital con. This year, they had bit more warning that they were going to be digital, so I think that they'll be fine. I'm not participating in it. Nothing against GaryCon. I got so much on my plate, and the balls that I'm juggling at the moment. So
many jokes, Eric. So many jokes. I'll leave that alone, though. Juggling balls.
Oh well, I'm wearing pants, so I'm not juggling them at the moment. But just saying. Man.
Yeah, I'm looking at their webpage now. It looks like you're right. It's all Twitch. It looks like you got a Discord server link. Then you got GaryCon Gaxmore for the celebrity guest adventure. Then you got GaryCon Lock Geneva for other supported streamers and sponsor games, and GaryCon Blighted Lands, a variety of GaryCon entertainment, GaryCon Greyhawk Adventures, which is awesome. 24 hours a day, get Greyhawk gaming and shows, and then there's a link tree. Yeah, all that. Just go to the GaryCon, Google it basically, and then you take it to tabletop.events/convention/GaryCon. You can check it all out. Now, I just, here's the weird thing is I won't play online in games unless they're friends and I trust them, yada yada, because God forbid you say the wrong thing, you offend somebody, you're canceled next day. So I'm not going to play any kind of games live. It's not worth it.
But Joe, doesn't that go back to one of the earlier online cons that I think you played and I didn't play in?
I didn't play. Fuck that. I know what you're talking about. No. As soon as they announced that it was going to be recorded, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, everything was going to be done on Google Hangouts, and it was going to be recorded. Just for those folks listening at home, the history is I think it was the first Contessa, and the idea was everything was going to be recorded and posted, so if there were any bad actors, they would be exposed. And I'm not a bad actor. That was my concern. My concern was I was an active law enforcement officer, and I didn't even have to do anything wrong. I could just be in a group where somebody was a fucking asshole. And I would have the guilt by association. So I was like, I gotta pass on that.
No, not worth it. Not worth it. It's even worse now. That was before everything went batshit crazy in the world. But now, it's not worth it. But I wouldn't mind seeing some like panel discussions or things like that. I hope they keep them up there even after like the convention's over, so you can watch replays or something over on Twitch. That'd be nice.
And that's the thing too. Like the panel discussions are certainly something that like Zoom is made to support. It is a wonderful tool for that. Now it's going to be interesting. We're talking about GaryCon, but I don't know, Joe, if you know this, but Gen Con, the other G-Con. Gen Con has postponed their convention by about 6 weeks.
Yeah, I heard that. It's going to be September or something now. I guess they're hoping for
it's the same weekend as ShireCon.
Oh shit! Really? Well, I'm not going to Gen Con, so
I don't think
there's a crossover.
Yeah, I think very few of the attendees at ShariCon have any intention or had any intention to go into Gen
Yeah.
Con. Here's the thing. So now, Gary Con is going to be virtual this year or either. North Texas is happening in person. I'll be there in June.
Well, that's because it's Texas. They fuck that.
Right.
They're going in person.
Well, yeah, Texas. Hey, there was a North Texas in 2020. Only about 80 attendees, but yeah. We had it. So now we're going to have North Texas in June. Probably a couple of hundred people going to be there. I'm going to throw a number out there. They're normally around 450. I'm going to say we'll probably have at least 300.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be spot on in that one. Gen Con, though, pushing back to mid-September from early August, I think is an attempt to, because they're not even saying what their cap is. All they're saying is that people who didn't ask for refunds from last year will be the first ones to get tickets to this year.
Okay.
I think that they're hoping to get numbers probably at least 20 or 25,000. They're going to be looking to get close to at least half of a normal Gen Con.
So it's about 50 is normal, something like that?
I think it's like 60 to 70 is normal now.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wizards of the Coast doesn't even show up at Gen Con from what I understood. They don't have a Gen Con presence, I thought. They only do some West Coast con that they have a presence at.
Well, honestly, do they need to? I mean,
no.
They are the big kids on campus. I mean, when my one Gen Con 25, I think it was back in '92. Yeah, it was run by TSR, right?
Yeah.
And so TSR had a huge presence. They had
their game,
Spelljammer had released. They had this huge Spelljammer 3D display model game going on. I ran it for like half an hour when Dale Slade Henson had to use the bathroom, and then I guess he went to get food and a smoke break on top of that. Because he was just like, I was older, I was like mid-20s. He's like, "Hey, kid," I'm like, yeah, and you figured out how to run this? I'm like, well, you're just wrong. It's just regular D&D combat, right? So he's like, no, dude, it's even easier than that. They roll high, they hit. They roll low, they miss. I'm like, what? He goes, listen, nobody's sticking around. Everybody's coming. They're going. Kill somebody off so somebody else can get a place. Goes, what are you talking about? I need to use the bathroom. Do you think you can cover this for like 10 minutes? Yeah. I'm like, okay, I can do 10 minutes. And literally like 30, 35 minutes later, here he comes strolling back. I'm killing people off left and right. And he's like, people are, it's like, he goes, hey, you got a whole crowd around you. It looks like you're having fun. You did good. And then I was dismissed. So I was like, okay. So that's my Gen Con story. That and winning a $5 gift certificate for getting to the second round of the AD&D 2E tournament that I played in.
That was the heyday of 2E too. That's when we were playing college 2E. Yeah. Max says when I went in 2012-ish, he has a big wall, a statue, and nothing else. I guess Wizards of the Coast means not even people around to talk to it. That was when Pathfinder dominated. Yeah, that's true. Pathfinder was the shit back then because 4E sucked. Yeah. So, I just called 4E an abomination, basically. Yeah. I mean, it was their game. And nobody was playing that crap,
I want to do a quick shout out to the Zwicky, who was an anonymous Facebook user whose comments we would not have seen, but since they've come over to the YouTube side, to the dark side, nice. We can actually see their comments. So I thank you for coming over. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Matt Jackson, I went in 2012. Big wall, a statue, and nothing else. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it's a shame. Listen, I really enjoyed my my Gen Con experience, but it was it's a bucket list thing.
Yeah, exactly. I want to do it. I was telling my brother Mike's in the chat room here. I have arrived. I was telling him this, post COVID and stuff. I'm gonna save us some money when I go out there. I figure I started D&D in '84, I believe. I think it was right. So '83, it's probably '84, and so in 2024, it'll be my 50th anniversary of 40th anniversary playing D&D, right?
Right.
So I'd like to go out there for my own personal 40th anniversary of playing D&D. So I was telling him, let's do it, man. What the hell? You only live once, man. let's just fucking do it one time. I want to hit it. You know, it's like I say, it's a bucket list. It's a thing to do. I want to hit all the vendors. I want to bring extra stupid money to spend, you know, stuff like that. You know, and I might even drive, take the freaking week. I haven't driven across country in freaking 16 years. You know, I would just rent a nice car, you know, not my little freaking Honda crappy. I want to, you know, just do it. You know what I mean? Get a nice room, get a car, drive out there, chill out, and just see the country, and just, you know, take a week and a half off, and just enjoy it. I don't know, just it's once in a lifetime thing, right? Bucket list. What the hell, you know?
Well, listen, Cenk, I'm glad I got that bucket list aspect done when the convention was maybe 22,000 people. It was still it was still like watching the driving of the bulls. In Spain. No, thank you. Now the numbers are outlandish. I would say, listen, of the three big old school flavored cons, Gary Con is something that I would say is definitely bucket list. It's at the old Playboy resort. I think no, but it's certainly bucket list type of place to go to. I would say Game Hole, if you want a convention that runs like clockwork, doesn't have that atmosphere of like being at GaryCon. GaryCon has this atmosphere because it's a location and it's Lake Geneva, so you're kind of like, this is where D&D started. Right. Yep. You can you know, hop in the car with somebody and go see Gary's old house. You can see
people who live there now.
Miller
every time.
Oh, dude. They rent out their basement for yeah.
Oh, that's goddamn smart, because that's where Gary played back in the day with the Sands.
Right. So that's I don't know how much. Like tickets are like $500 a pop or something like that to play in Gary's basement through the convention. So I mean, you know, the family's getting getting reimbursed, and the cons making money.
That's smart. That's turning freaking lemonade from lemons right there, man. That's you know what I mean.
You know, so you have that, but Game Hole, whether you're playing old school or 5e, they got you covered, and the vending room is amazingly well organized and well done. Yeah. And if you want to actually not just see, like, if you want to, you know, meet somebody like Tim Kask in person, or Mar Rasmussen, or Dennis Astaire, or I'm going to omit the rest of the names because there's just too many people from the old school, and of course then the new school creators, like, well, we know Jeff Talanian, but if you want to meet Doug Kovacs and people like Doug, North Texas RPG, because it's only 400 people, 450 a normal year. But you have the same number of special guests that you get at GaryCon or at a Game Hole.
The same level of notoriety of old school notoriety.
Yes, right. So, well, and North Texas is even more focused on old school gaming. Yeah, they'll have 5e. You can run anything, but the focus is really old school. Yeah. So if you want to actually get a chance to, in my case, spend hours talking to Dennis Astaire, creator of Swordbearer and Dennis Astaire's Chariot, and you want to talk to somebody who, you know, is a doctor because they have degrees in not medical science but like every other type of science. I spent hours talking with Dennis one night. It's just like I'm a nobody, you know, or maybe I'm one step above nobody. I'm the wannabe somebody, and. You know, it's just an amazing experience that you get to see all these people. And
I would need to have a list of names and what they did, because I never in my life paid attention to the old guys' names, you know, like the Menser and Gygax and Dave Arness, obviously the big ones, right? I get those, Rob Coons, but like Sustair, I'm like, that name's familiar, you know. And then he said the Chariot. Oh yeah, the fucking Chariot, you know, stuff like that. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? An artist? I never paid attention to old school art. I never cared. I don't know who did what, you know, except that I whoever did the chainmail bikini shit was number one in my book. Other than that, was that Easley? Was that the Easley shit? The chainmail bikini? All the hot covers of Dragon magazine, like issue of 100 era.
I think it could have been Caldwell. It could have been Larry Elmore. Did a lot.
Elmore was boobs in bikini.
And you know, these are artists that I'm not sure if Larry's going to be going this year, because I think he had health issues last year.
Yeah.
But they're all getting older, but
Yeah, no.
they're very approachable.
That's cool. I would like to do that too one day, but I do want to do Gen Con. See,
Oh
the
yeah.
whole thing that turns me off about the North Texas is nothing at all related to convention. It's everything
Mhm.
all related to Dallas fucking heat. I went to Dallas once for work, and I was in all day in an air conditioner. I was only there like 2 days for training, and I'm in an air conditioned room. And after like lunch, the lady says, "Oh, let's go out to lunch. It's a good place." Blah blah blah. All right, that's cool. I didn't realize how fucking hot Dallas was until I walked out the door of this building, and I physically got punched in the face by a wave of heat. It was like somebody cast a blast your face with heat spell on me. I was like, what in the hell just happened there? What in the hell was happening? Yeah, that's the only drawback is Dallas heat, man.
Well, I told you my first North Texas. Rachel and I went to the I guess it's the Marriott, but we went to the Marriott North, and we were supposed to be at the South, something like that. So
Mhm.
when we walked into the hotel, and I saw like marble floors, I knew it was in the wrong place. So we had to get a taxi. We got delivery to the proper option, and as we get into it, explain where we're going. He's like, "Oh, where are you from?" We're from New York City. We're in New York City, Queens. Hi, Kitty. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from." He was Russian from Brooklyn, and he drives in the Dallas Fort Worth area for like I don't know 7 months a year, and
Yeah.
then he goes back to New York for the summer months and works in New York because as he explained it, only a fool would come to Dallas in June. I'm leaving next week. I'm like, oh, I'm so dude. I got a convention I got to go to, man. It's not really
It's
not
my
really
brother.
my choice.
My brother says last time I was in Dallas was 2 years ago in March. It was 78 degrees and he had heat lamps in a restaurant patios. Fuck that shit. Fuck that. Yeah, dry heat my ass. Heat is still heat, man. If I'm dripping wet and dehydrated and passing out, no way. Tim
Uh-oh.
Shorts, Gothridge Manor's here.
Arthur's Manor in the house says it's
Ivy
dangerous. It's
Ivy let him out to play. I think Ivy's running errands and Tim is sneaking on.
there you go.
Yeah. Actually, Tim, that you're a good segue. You did a podcast. I was listening to Tim. Once every couple of weeks, I go through and start listening to podcasts if I get some time. And I just I banged out 3 of Tim's today, and he had a really he had some cool ones. But he had one where the title of it was actually really interesting. It's like, would I want me as a GM? And that was really something beyond what he talked about in the podcast. It sent me along the way of thinking. I think I would want me as a GM because I'm such a control freak about everything in the game. I try to take control, you know what I mean, of the game with my character and his goals or ideas or ideals or whatever the hell he wants to achieve. I try to ask a zillion questions and detail out as much as I can about the world. And so I would want me as a DM because I know I'd be in agreement with everything I did. My house rules would make perfect sense to me. That I wouldn't have to argue about my house rules and why I have my house rules. The world development that I do, that I would have in the game, would be perfect because that's exactly the kind of world development I want. And I
Right.
always know the levels of bullshit. I wouldn't want. I think I'd be in agreement with myself. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
I hope you'd be in agreement with yourself.
My brother's completely arguing bullshit and calling it the levels of bullshit. But I don't know. I think I would because, and this goes to it expands upon a topic that we were sort of discussing last time. Is basically, remember we talked high level games,
Right.
and the levels and the styles of games and all that stuff. That made me think that I want me as a DM because all my characters, when I start them, I start rolling up their hit points or whatever at first level. In my head, I have a goal to achieve godhood of the entire multiverse, right? So I go from 0 level shithead, former carpenter, and now he's becoming the god archmage, whatever, of the multiverse. That's my character arc as I see it for every single character I ever run, right? So
Right.
it's always the same. So in order to have a high level game that I like, it needs to be a huge area, not just like a world, and not just like one continent or one nation or one even area of a world, but it has to be a whole fucking world, and with touching the different multiverse area, blah blah blah, and that sort of thing requires, I think, a lot of interest, if not knowledge, but definite interest in stuff like
Okay. I'm sure. I'm surprised it's not my son calling.
it
So.
usually is your phone. It requires like an interest in reading a lot about history, archaeology, anthropology, sociology, economics, all these things, right? All these weird ass things that I'm interested in. And then you got to tie it all together that makes sense, right? So you're building an entire world, right? From the ground up, from why the rivers are there because of the thing over here and then mountains over there and the streams and the sub whatever, right? And then what the history of the world from a billion BC on, what happened there and why, then the recent events, and then the countries and the history between the countries, and then within the countries the regions, within the regions the cities, and all of that interrelates with economics and sociology and politics and all these other things that I'm interested in, right? And so me in my head, my character, I need that in order to feel like if my character needs to, become a god of the world or whatever, I need the fucking world to become a god of. That's it.
Now your brother is calling it just bullshit. He says you have outright admitted to me that you as a DM want a different game that you as a player want.
That's not what I admitted. What I said was, as a player, I do things differently. That he says basically, as I DM, I say no, you can't do this or you can't do that, blah blah blah, because it's sort of my control freakness, right? My world or whatever it is. If I'm a player, different story. I'm going to argue for every goddamn thing again. You know what I mean? Because that's what I want out of the world. It goes back to the control. That's what it comes down to, right? So I'm going to try to grasp whatever control I can. A different style of play, a different style of play. But I would totally agree with myself as a DM because I like the world building aspect, and I would have to agree that I think I do it decently. And I don't know somebody who does it just the way I like it, because obviously I like it that way. Right. You know what I mean?
All right. So, Michael, I won't disagree with you there. What you are saying is you love a well thought out sandbox, whether you are a player or a DM. That doesn't mean you would like playing with you as a DM.
Oh no! If me as a DM and me as a player, I would like the world development, right? But there'd be constant scrounging. Joe the player would kind of scrounge against Joe the DM all the fucking time. Yeah, definitely. But I would agree on the fundamentals of the house rules and the world that I'm living in, that the rules of the world make sense, that the politics, geography, sociology, history all make sense. That's what I think.
All right, so it's now would Joe the DM allow Joe the player to shop for 2 sessions in a row, as Joe the player is wont to do?
Yeah, I like that. Because Joe the DM would have the shopping list of what the store has, how much it costs, and the availability. You know what I mean? I like the details of all that stuff, and where it comes from. So yeah, that definitely, I would like that. I don't mind that. I like the role play. Sometimes I run the game. My brother, he basically will do 2 sessions, 2 4-hour game sessions in a row. There's not a sword swung or a spell slung. It's just all talk and role play or whatever. Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah. That's fun shit, man. Man, okay. John Miller, the X factor of the personality, agreeableness of the DM. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain level. There has to be a certain level of agreeableness. You can't be a dick. I mean, if I were some people say I am a dick as a DM, but if I were a true dickhead, then yeah, it wouldn't get along.
I've been accused of being a dick by my old gaming group because I wouldn't have the peasants kowtowing to them. Well, we're powerful people. They should be. They don't know who the fuck you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But see now, as a player, I am happy to play in pretty much any type of campaign, whether it is sandbox, whether it is episodic. I don't like railroads for my adventures. I like my adventures to, I hate the ones where you go, well, you're an adventure and you got to go from point A to point B, because if you don't point B, then you can't get to point C. And you don't do C, you can't do D. No. My actions have to have some kind of meaning. But I don't mind. As a DM, I've run sandboxes and I've run episodic. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, I probably prefer the episodic if you're running online, because... Right. Yeah, well, because you're running online, a lot of times you'll have your group membership will vary from week
Fluctuate.
to
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
So
yeah,
episodic allows you to say, well, all right, well, this is what presents itself, and it's the people that are there, and
yeah.
you go with that, and hopefully your episodic can wrap up in the time frame of your session. So it's a different way. But I've run sandboxes. I ran a sandbox with Audra when I came back to gaming. I ran a sandbox pretty much out Long Island. Well, it was a quasi sandbox because I jumped into it like with, oh shit, I'm running a game next time we play because Tim Conley is tapping out for a while.
Mm.
Oh fuck! All right,
Yeah,
I better
yeah.
get this thing. And that thing, remember too, that first adventure, whether you're running a sandbox or whether you're running episodic, your first adventure is going to I'm not going to call it a railroad, but your players aren't going to have an option or not to
No,
do
yeah,
that
yeah. You
first
haven't
adventure.
developed the world yet. That's
Right.
the key.
And,
Like
but not only that, they haven't. The party hasn't come together yet as a
Yeah,
party,
yeah.
so you have to bring them together, and that's what that first adventure is
Yeah.
about. And then here's my thought is at low level play should be, and whether it's with an experienced group or not, should be more steered. But as it gets up, as you get to mid levels, your options as a group of what you're going to do the next session should start opening up. But that becomes the whole conversation then of sandbox GMing or DMing is how do you balance game prep with what's going to be used in game. Like episodic, your game prep is minimal because not minimal, but at least it's controlled. That's Rachel talking to the kitty behind us. If you're hearing, she's not talking to me, calling me so sweet. Probably that fucking asshole is he doing in there, the podcast. But I think with the episodic, you can say, all right, well, this is what we're going to be playing next week.
I think it goes. It depends on the prep. It depends on the detail of the world, man, or the region or the area that you're in. Because the way this is one thing that Joe the player and Joe the DM would agree with is that the more detail, the better. Because me as a DM ask my players, all right, what are you going to do next? I give them the world is like at high level. Literally, the world is your sandbox. Where do you want to go? And since they've gotten high enough level, I've detailed enough of the world and the entire world situation that they could literally go somewhere and do something that they want to do.
Right.
And at the lower levels, okay, this village / town / county region, whatever you want to do, because you grow. It's like a fish in a fishbowl. The fish gets bigger, you need a bigger fishbowl, right? So you got to keep expanding the area they have some influence over.
If you're doing a sandbox, it definitely has to be something that definitely grows, and that's huge. But at the same time, if you're going to run a sandbox, I think part of the secret to it, the success of it, to a large extent, is again knowing your players and getting a feel. Like if you're running a session every other week, when you're ramping up, what are your plans for next week? And don't fuck with me. And we come.
Yes,
we changed our mind because you have to prep for that.
Yeah,
and we're talking about yes, you're having your world design, but even then, it's superficial because you're not drilling down until you need to know what they're going to be exploring. Why detail to great depth, like to Alyssa Faden type of artwork for her maps, if the party's never going to go to that section of the world, what more do you need than broad strokes? If you know where they're going, that's when you start digging down and detailing and getting more information.
Yeah,
because I think the fear is as a sandbox DM, you can get overwhelmed by the amount of prep. But
that's where I live, man. I live in the prep because I'm not married. I got no kids. And, my brother just said, that's where I live. I live in the prep. So I'll prep for 12 hours for a 3-hour game. You know what I mean? And that's just the 12 hours I'm sitting in front of my computer. Right. There's all throughout the rest of the week. I'm thinking about notes, reading shit, this and that.
Commuting to work, in the shower. I've done that too.
Yeah.
That certainly your brother says to John that you can't even comprehend the depth of his world creating. It's incredible. Well, Joe, I'm I'm going to make a suggestion that I'm sure others that have listened to this podcast or have gained with you have said, put this stuff in writing and get a decent editor to make it comprehensive.
Well,
If fucking Raggy can hire somebody to take his I don't know, stream of consciousness ideas on how to be a ref and supposedly put that into a workable format, not that we're going to see it, but theoretically.
Here's what I'm doing. I've been working on a Bronze Age thing, right? Not only I realized that because I house rule so much out of everything that I realized I'm just writing up my own character, like my whole fucking D&D game, essentially,
Right.
But it goes along with the world, right? Now, what I've been doing is my brother's game with a Forgotten Realms thing. I took the pieces of it, and I took the pieces of all the old shit from the Forgotten Realms, and I just put it together in my own weird ass jigsaw puzzle, right? So I could never publish something like that. But the structure of what's going on there over the past, it's been 3 years of gameplay, maybe 8 years of the game in-game time, though, that is over time. I could apply that structure to another game. The overall outline, the grander scheme of it, right? To another setting, another world. Now, I've been thinking to myself, well, I did up a continent, I detailed the cultures and the people and this and that already. I got one. And then I realized, you know what? I also have Blood Island. That could be another one. And you know what? I also have an entire other continent that I ran for like a year and a half or 2 years back in the early 2010, 11, 12 era, like a couple of years there. And I'm like, you know what? They all could kind of fit together. So I got this whole thing in my head now. I'm kind of building a globe, right? With all the old shit I've ever done. And even the stuff that I ran for a short time with the old fuckers group, I call them, Tim and Matt and those guys. That there's that little area of a world I could fit that in there too. So what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm grabbing all the old shit that I've ever done, and if I apply everything I'm doing and reading, build the world, build the game system, and then on top of that sort of apply the overall structure or format, archetype, whatever you want to call it, of the stuff I've done with the Forgotten Realms jigsaw puzzle campaign I put together for my brother, I have a thing. That's the thing. Right now, I'm in the process of having to move, so none of that shit's getting done except in my head.
Right.
But yeah, over time, that's something I'm going to do. That's something I'm going to do. It's in my head, and also it appeals to me to write fiction, because short stories or longer stories or whatever, I could because writing fiction in a certain world helps develop the world, right? And the culture, and people, definitely. And characters, and NPCs, shit like that. Just publish it, just release it, don't charge. There's nothing there, Matt. There's not there yet. It's in bits and pieces. Like I dug through an old fucking milk crate because I knew I drew maps back in 10 years ago for this game that I did. It was a game for using Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and I got these maps and I dug them out and I fucking found them. I'm like, great, and I'm gonna go scan them in at like a Staples or something like that, so they don't never go away. Yeah, how longer than the actual rule books, yeah. But yeah, so I got all this in my head. I'm gonna do. But once I get stabilized in a new apartment, that's gonna be my creative push, because I'm gonna keep running my brother's game with him for a while. I don't see that ending in over probably a couple more years. I could start building a different campaign and getting people involved. I imagine some of the old bastards, I get you guys, I get my brother, they get a couple different play groups in there. That could be my soon to be main focus. So that's a long story short, that's my long story short, how I'm going to do it.
Well, your brother wants to know if this is a story about the wizard and barbarian type that you're modeling after my two characters.
No, I was thinking about short stories based on them, but I could fit that in the world somewhere. But it sort of evolved and grown before that. You know what I mean? Unless you kill me tomorrow. Yeah, we are playing tomorrow, right? I got the guess.
So I'm going to hold something. Doesn't really freaking my green screen does not like me holding up anything. Here, I'm holding it at an angle.
What's that?
So Worlds Without Number.
Okay.
This is Kevin Crawford's latest. Okay. This is his.
He did Stars at Outnumber, that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Kevin's big on sandboxes.
Yeah.
All right. That's the thing. But what he does is he gives you a lot of charts, a lot of tables, a lot of random ways to help you with a controlled amount of effort. I don't want to say minimal, but without overwhelming you. It gives you the tools that you can use to build and maintain a good sandbox campaign.
Yeah.
Now I need to dig through this because I like his system, but I'm more comfortable, obviously, with Swords and Wizardry. So but his tag system and his tables for sandbox play work with any And you can probably run it with 5e if you needed
Yeah,
to that part.
that's
So
cool.
I need to find a little time to start properly, digging through this because that's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, that's cool. And Tim is saying he downloaded the free version. It's very, very good. That's cool. I'll check it out. I'm waiting for my offset print from Dave there. It's nice, nice. All right, I'll give it a shot, man. There's a free version, then what, a larger print version or a larger PDF that expands upon the free version or something?
Uh, all right. So I got distracted when I was pulling that out. What did I miss?
Oh, they're saying that Tim downloaded the free version. He liked it a
Of
lot.
of which?
Worlds
Oh,
Without
this.
Number, it looks like.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I was not paying attention.
That's all
We'll
right.
talk
That's
about
all
it.
right.
Yeah, there is a free version. It's missing about, I don't know, 40, 45 pages
Okay.
of I think optional classes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Kevin Crawford has. I own everything that he's put out, like at least every core product that he's put out,
Yeah.
because they are spot on, awesome.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
if you don't get an immediate use out of them, even if you don't run the system, and he doesn't do this under the OGL, by the way. So
Yeah.
you're getting an old school system, but it doesn't fall under the parameters of the
All right.
OGL. So don't go ripping shit off and saying,
All right. That's
"Oh,
cool.
oh, oh, I'm gonna." No, you can't. But
This is where I put you on the spot, Eric, because I got to take a leak. I'll be right back.
Oh well. So Joe's gonna make me talk by myself. I should return the favor to him when he gets back. Don't tell him that. I'll be like, Joe, I gotta take a leak too. Oh, jeez. So, as a side note, it has to do with the Tavern's Discord server. I've already put the post up earlier today. It was a blast to everybody on the server. I am looking to do a hangout once a month initially, where I flipped the clock. So normally we do a Thursday 9 p.m. Eastern until 11ish hangout, and everybody's welcome. Everybody gets a chance to yap and talk. Well, here's the thing. I know we have people like David and others that are on the other side of the pond, other side of the globe. We have people like my good friend Laramie. We have a good friend Laramie who he's a shift worker. So I want to see what interest there is in doing, say, like a 9 a.m. Monday tavern chat hangout. We'll do this once a month, see how we have attendance, and go from there. Because I really believe that getting together and us talking, even us doing this Iron Rations with Joe and I, and having the conversation going on, this is so awesome. Hearing or reading the conversation, not necessarily hearing it, but reading it.
Yeah.
It allows us to work off you, but also it's part of the community that we are and try to be part of, and to allow that, to encourage that, and allow people on the other side of the pond, other side of the world, to participate in these, hangouts. If there's a good turnout, I would do it more than once a month. I'm retired. What the hell, right?
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah. So and people that work from home and don't have to sit behind a computer with their pants off, but their shirt and tie on, could even participate. I'm not saying that I'm wearing pants at the moment, folks, just so you know. But often I'm not when I do this shit.
Thank God. Jackson stands up during D&D games in his tighty whities. He scares the shit out of us.
You know what? I'm
bad.
sorry, man, but the tighty whities are for those in their 20s.
Yeah, it's worse than the spandex look of me in spandex. I tell you, Matt Jackson and tighty whities, just saying, it's just something else, dude. Anywho, hey, last week or last session we talked about we kind of beat up on the 5e people, and it was interesting because it made me think about a lot of different things too, even after the fact. And again, listening to Tim's podcast today, I was thinking about tropes, because Tim was talking about in one of his older ones from last week or so about the whole, looking at perception. I roll my perception check, or I roll my insight check, see if you're lying. How we don't use that. Obviously, we don't do that sort of thing in the old school community, right? But it just becomes too, I guess it just, using things like that just doesn't make any sense to me. I use my insight check. Well, no, fuck you. Just figure out if the DM was lying while he was playing that character at the bar, something like that. But on the flip side, beating up on a little bit on the old school things that I don't like. I was thinking about this too. It's and it becomes things that become rote or routine, right? Because Tim is like, or another, I think the other commenter in his podcast was sort of like, well, yeah, so if you look up, while you're walking in the hallway, you got a chance to see the whatever the thing, or if you look down
Right.
and feel the floor with your 10-foot pole, you get a chance to detect the pit trap, right? But what that does, it just conditions you in a whole different way, because over time, what you're going to do is, I didn't check for the spike holes in the ceiling, therefore the spikes came down and speared me and impaled me and killed me. So then you write a list, right? You got a bullet pointed checklist that you build up over time of all the things that killed your ass, or all the things that you've seen in other games that killed other people's asses. And over time, you're going to write down, I'm going to make sure when I'm walking in the cavern, or I'm walking in a dungeon, or I walk into a room, I do this, 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 this. And all these things come down to what I should have done, but I didn't do, and I got killed because of it, right? And so over time, what you're going to do is you're just going to have this battery of shit, right? You could almost like I'm holding up a piece of paper, like you guys can see it. Yeah, standard operating procedure. Exactly. You have the same. All right, you could almost say to the DM, hey, DM, these 48 things that I do, I'm going to do all 48 things every time I walk down the hallway. It saves me the time of saying it and you the time of actually having to, figure it out. You could even email the DM all 48 things. This is my old door opening procedure. This is my walking into a new room procedure. This is my walking down a hallway procedure. You know what I mean? And it has a list of all the things that anybody's ever been killed by in the past by any DM ever, right? It makes a monotonous game in a sense, because even sometimes if you're like, oh, fuck, I forgot to look on the wall for the lantern, whatever the fuck, blah, 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 and it killed me. God damn it, I forgot that this time. But I remembered it the last 7 times, but I forgot to say it this time, and this time it killed me, right? So there is a monotony. And then it leads back to, I guess, what we were talking about in terms of, at some point, in terms of detective games. Is the real fun finding the clue? Or was the real fun trying to figure out what to do with the clue? I think it comes down to like the old gumshoe games. I think we were talking about this in a game a couple of weeks ago. It comes down to, what do you do with the clue you found? The best detective games, Cthulhu, the gumshoe system, the Black Alley system, or some Black Cat or Black Alley, something like that.
Right.
They don't talk about this, right? It's not the clue. In other words, it's not seeing the holes in the ground where the spears come out to kill you. That shouldn't be the thing you focus on as a player. The DM should almost say, you're walking down the hallway and you see, it looks like there's 3 holes on the side of the wall. What do you do? Right? And that becomes, what the fuck are they for? Then the player's like, ah, shit, what the hell is that? Why is he bringing it up? What should I do about it? How can I avoid it? Right? That's the fun part. So it's almost like you're penalizing, a lot of old school games penalize the guy for not saying, I do these 47 things when I walk in the room. What they should really penalize him for is, I didn't do the thing to resolve one of those 47 things effectively, right? That should be the focus. That should be the focus. Yeah, Aaron Black, my always group tells me standard procedure. Yeah, that's it. My brother's game, we all have, all right, when he walks down the hallway, when I'm running him in the game, he's like, all right, these 4 guys, all the time, this one is looking up, this one's looking left, this one's looking right, and this one's looking forward, and the other one's looking behind. You know what I mean? So it's like and that way it's been said. And that way nothing can drop from the ceiling because the thief was looking up. He was the guy with the looking up duty. You know what I mean? So I think the focus on the trap, on you didn't find the doozy thing, is the wrong way to do it in the old school. I think the focus should be more on, all right, you found it. It was pretty easy, right? And once in a while you don't, but you found this pretty easy. Now, what the fuck are you going to do about that weird ass thing? And then let the players try to figure out, oh, what the fuck is that? Now, how is he going to kill me with that thing? Then they start the wheels turning. It's a different thing. Players aren't getting pissed off because you killed them because they didn't poke the ground with the fucking pole, right? And it gives the players now they can think of something, right? They can think of something. So that's just my thought about the old school stuff.
Well, you have to remember, what class was missing from Whitebox?
Well, I don't know. Thief.
Yeah. Thief was not in the original game.
Yeah.
Thief was added to the game. Now, why was the thief added to the game? Because initially you put in traps, and unless you did standard operating procedure, you weren't going to find a trap until you fell in it, stepped on it, it fell on you, whatever.
Yeah.
So then they added. Now, now, what's the big problem with the thief in pretty much every old school game is that their ability to find and remove traps is barely better than nothing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. They suck. They suck.
And finding it is not the same as removing. You can find the trap, and then, wow, I made my 15% chance to find the trap. Now I have a 15% chance to remove the trap. Oh, fuck.
Matt, that's interesting. As someone who has cleared buildings, I can tell you that despite having a standard operating procedure, opening that door is still a huge uncertainty. One guy forgets his job, one guy trips, one guy has a safety. Yeah, it's true.
Listen, I'm going to tell a true story on that. Back in, I guess, the late 90s, when I was a cop in the South Bronx, we did a lot of clean hall sweeps where you would go into a building that technically wasn't abandoned, but you'd probably have half the apartments were not rented. A lot of them were broken into, and any door that was unlocked, you would go in. Actually, in this case, it was a building on Bryant Avenue, so it was actually 4 addresses in with one common courtyard. And I'm going through with a guy, well, not my regular partner, but some guy in my unit. And as we check out the second room, I heard a noise, so I reached for my firearm just to unsnap it out of its holster, not necessarily pull it, but unsnap it, and I realized it was still in my fucking locker. So I didn't even have a firearm on me. And
oh
yeah, no, it's a true story.
Are you a rookie?
no, I had like 3 or 4 years on it at the time. It's just you get complacent. So I was like, shit. So I was like, all right, dude, listen, I'm going to open up that door to the bathroom. You cover me. I got my mace in my hand. If I see anything, I'm going to spray it, but you light it. And it was a fucking stray cat in the bathroom. That's what we heard.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's at least 3 experience points if you kill it, though.
Yeah. So
you never know. You might be close to leveling up,
Right. So we at that point, I'm like, dude, listen, we're going to have to cut this sweep short. I gotta go back to the station house and get my gun.
Yeah.
So as we come downstairs, who pulled up in the meantime to scratch our books and verify that the inspector is on post, but my lieutenant.
Oh God.
So he's like, hey guys, well, you guys calling it short? Like, well, I need, boss, I need to use the bathroom, so I go back to the station house real quick, and we'll come back and finish it. Oh, I was gonna offer, do it with you. I'm kind of bored. I'm like, really, I gotta go. So when you come back, make sure you bring your gun with you this time. So I was like, oh geez, all right, yeah. Couldn't pull that one over.
Well, I would hope the adventurers don't forget their sword. There's certain things you got to assume. The adventurer, they don't have to roll to trip when they walk through a door. They don't have to roll to see if they remember their sword, right? They don't have to. They don't have to make sure that the arrow is cocked in the crossbow. That's the equivalent of Matt's examples there. You know what I mean?
Well, and Matt makes a valid point too. Don't forget, in old school dungeons, those doors are all stuck. The dungeon wants you dead, and that's right. The default. Now I haven't played that way in how many years?
Yeah.
But yes, every door required it. So you always had the fighter with the 1800 strength or whatever exceptional strength, and if it was wizard locked, you needed somebody with the top exceptional strength to get through. So, but
well, that goes back to another bitch I got: dungeon design. We touch on this a little bit, right? Why? Why do dungeons look the way they do? It's the dumbest thing. It's because I needed to have the maximum amount of hallways and rooms on a piece of 8.5 by 11 fucking graph paper. Like no architect in the world would have designed dungeons the way they did back in the day. Long ass hallways are a waste of money. It would be literally to save money. It'd be like a cubicle dungeon. You know what I mean? With some more permanent walls and some less permanent walls. Like unless it was a big ass original cave system that was already there that they modified into something or expanded into, they wouldn't have designed it. And none of them have a fucking bathroom. None of them have. You know what I'm saying? None of them have.
Wait. I designed the dungeon privy in a nice with an isometric mapper. That was my fun time. And I actually put an outhouse in the dungeon along with a fountain, so you could wash your hands afterwards. But you're right about that. And I remember doing dungeon design even as a teen and saying, all right, well, I have to include these small like pits that go down to wherever, just so people can throw out refuse and and shit and whatever, because
Yeah.
you can't have an audio goes in every dungeon taking care of the dungeons to keep them clean, or having your gelatinous cube going through as a dungeon cleaner.
Yeah. Dumb.
But and listen, I was guilty of it too. I remember you had a piece of graph paper, and graph paper wasn't cheap.
Oh yeah, hell no.
You know,
Hell no.
so you would use up pretty much if somebody found an empty hex on your map after mapping out that full dungeon, they were like, I'm looking for secret doors. I got to find secret doors. And by the way, my standard operating procedure for secret doors was you always figure that secret doors were always used by the denizens. So my way of trying to find secret doors was I think there might be a secret door on this wall. I'm gonna piss on the wall, look for cracks because I'm gonna wet it, and see if anything pulls under the wall. In which case, that works once or twice, and after that, the DM just goes.
Then the DM, Or the other thing is like incense. You burn incense and look for a whiff of wind that blows it, which shows, Matt puts shitters in the dungeons. They are, even if they like in a big hole in a dungeon or whatever, there's an area where they throw the refuse and they go and shit in. That's where all the rats are, stuff like that, or the giant centipedes,
Right.
And it's true. I think the newer editions, because combat takes so fucking long. My brother is saying that the 5e combat necessitates smaller, more sensible dungeons. Otherwise, you'd be there forever. You do Barrow Maze in a 5th edition, it takes 40 times longer than Barrow Maze 1st edition. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. But no outhouses in the Middle Ages. Chamber pots or squat in a corner, and that's. But doesn't mean you can't have a way to. Even the chamber pot has to get disposed of. So that's you'd still need that hole in the floor somewhere.
That
empties out. That empties out into the stream, and then the underground stream that supplies fresh water to some other dungeon. That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
If you don't have a water source in your dungeon, then what's going on? Now I still remember. I got to know Frank Messner because he had published with Entertainment Ent or Eldritch Ent, the Dungeon of Forest of Doom or something like that. It was one of those square dungeons where every hex is pretty much used, and I bitched and complained about that, and Frank was nice enough to respond to my bitching online. That's how I got to know Frank back in the day. But that was the old school mentality of if a hex unused is a hex that's gone to waste.
They had make no sense to me though, man. It just the other thing too. Matt's bringing up here the magic shit. That's another thing that burns my ass. I remember this in Barrow Maze, not Barrow Maze. I think it was the stupid. What the hell was it? Gragnardia's fucking dungeon, Dwemer Mound, right? Wasn't there one stupid ass room in there that basically time stood still or something like that, or something nothing but decay in there or whatever the hell it was, which was like essentially a variation of the time stop spell. Right now, back in old school games, D&D at least, you had to not only figure out the spell that did that, which necessitated tens of thousands of gold pieces of research, then you had to cast a permanency spell on that room. Right, and the permanency spell didn't have a risk of a con loss or something, or it was like a serious consequence to cast an AD&D First Edition permanency spell. I remember that, and so it leads to begs the question of why would somebody spend 50,000 gold pieces and risk their life or their health or their constitution or something like that in order to make like a cabinet where the fucking beef stew never goes bad? Why the fuck would they do that?
Because it was a cool concept, and yes. Permanency cost you a point of constitution. A lot of stuff had cost. Wish spell, I believe.
10 years. 10 years. But the thing is, you go into dungeons that somebody obviously had to cast at least 15 spells with a permanency. They started with an 18 con, they're down to 3, they're fucking dead. Why would they have cast a permanency to make a cabinet of ever fresh herbs? A cabinet that lettuce never goes bad. It makes no fucking sense, right? I know Gary said it shouldn't make complete sense. Fuck you, Gary. It should make complete sense. How am I as a player going to be able to figure out and beat your motherfucking dungeon if your motherfucking dungeon makes no sense? I need to figure it out and beat it. It needs to make logical, practical sense, which goes back to the whole world building thing that I was talking about before. If it doesn't make sense at a socio-political, economic, legal, every level, if it doesn't make sense to me,
Right.
then I can't figure out your fucking world, and how am I ever going to beat your world and rule it? Same thing with the dungeon on a macro and a micro level. Same fucking thing. Same fucking thing.
Aaron Black, hex unused equal to print cost, maybe economize space based on printing costs back then. Listen, this is a trope that even if you played, oh god, what was the what was it, Bard's Tale?
Yeah.
One of the I think I played that in the Commodore 64. Bard's Tale, every level, every hex was used, and they used a lot of the common tropes that were in classic dungeons. A lot of times, at least they would talk about, like the magical transports, the rotating rooms, so you could to fuck with your mapping. But if you found a spot on that level of the map, which could be 20 by 20, so that means it's 400 fucking hexes. You found that one hex, you knew that's the place where the treasure is. That's the place I gotta get.
That 5 by 5 square.
That 5 by 5 square is going to make this whole thing worthwhile.
Yep, that's where you bring your sledgehammer to break down the wall because you know it's fucking there.
Right, but those tropes in the video games came from tabletop. Now you didn't necessarily see it in the adventures that were published by TSR in the day, because the TSR adventures were usually stuff, at least initially, that was written for convention play. Quality is a bit better, but if you're looking at like early Judges Guild adventures, they were pretty much the same mentality of fill every spot up because free space. I don't know what the cost was, but if you, again, I guess maybe it's better to have a dungeon that level that's compact and everything is used than to have 2 dungeon levels and have it take up an extra page that we have to pay printing costs for. I don't know. I am not so expert on that aspect of the game, but it's an observation.
See, Matt, Matt says I'm gonna make my game utter nonsense just to watch Joe's mind going insane trying to figure out why dungeons were designed that way. See, that's the thing, Matt. We're playing in Matt and Steve are designing their killer dungeon, right, for the Kickstarter that they funded and all this stuff. So we're playing last night, and I'm thinking to myself as we're playing, the whole thing is to find a ring of some whatever the fuck, right? And so I'm thinking as we're going through this dungeon, the amount of permanency spells, gold, resources, and everything else that's been designed. There's even a fucking the black hole of death that you go into when you're disintegrate, a spear of annihilation. There's all this stuff, right? The amount of pure magical might and permanency spells and golds and traps and never goes bad oil and everything else that went into this fucking dungeon makes me think that whatever it's fucking protecting will make you instant ruler of the known universe. You see what I'm saying?
Well, hey, Tim says, don't throw logic into my fantasy.
I have to have logic.
But here's the thing.
How am I going to win?
All right. So Joe, you're a lawyer by trade. All right. Yeah. When you watch a movie that's based upon the legal profession or a TV show that has lawyers, do you watch it and go, that fucking would never happen?
Yeah. All the time. I watched Boston Legal. They go from the incident to the court trial in one episode spanning an hour, which it looks like in the time of the show takes like 8 days to get there. In real life, they're going to drag that shit out for 8 years, and you'll die before you get a penny. You know?
Well, and here's the thing: like, I watch cop movies or cop TV shows, and there are very few. Well, I should say that there are pretty much close to none that I can watch without suspending my disbelief. Dennis Leary's The Job from back in the late 90s or mid 90s was very accurate for how Detective Squad worked. Barney Miller was actually pretty good. Brooklyn South from 1997, I think, was actually a decent series for the NYPD. Still wasn't accurate 100%, accurate enough that I didn't have to. I told you that.
Cool. Now you got one and I
didn't have to suspend my disbelief. But I watch other movies and other TV shows, even NYPD Blue, and you're like, I'm going to enjoy this. I have to buy into the conceit that this is what the default is in this, I don't know, fake world of of policing, and in a way, you have to do something similar to as Tim says. Don't throw logic into my fantasy. You have to accept that. All right, well, this is the trope. These are the tropes. This is part of it. Now, when you design your own world, obviously you don't need to use those tropes.
Yeah.
But somebody might. Oh,
Yeah.
my headset died. I love that. That's what that ding was.
Okay.
It's
There is no win in
there,
RPGs. It's about the fun, the story we make while we play. Joe is insane. There is a win because don't forget, every character that I have ever played has zero meaningful background, and his ultimate goal is to rule the universe. So the win in the RPG is when I rule the universe that you, as a DM, have created. That is me winning. But I need to figure out the rules of the universe need to make sense so I can manipulate them to my benefit and advantage and beat your world. Yes, that's the win.
Aaron Black, Gygax never made sense. His Funhouse dungeons, for example, and you know what? I don't know, Joe. I think you might have dropped in for a B team session or two when I was running Joe Block's the Greyhawk Ragnard's Castle of the Mad Archmage.
Yeah.
That was a Funhouse dungeon. You accept the conceit that this dungeon is written and to be like in an alternate, not quite serious universe. And I think a lot of those early dungeons are like that. Now, we're coming into this with 40 years or so of gaming experience, and we're in 2021. Our expectations are different than they were in 1981.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're 84. I was 14 years old. I didn't know shit about Shinola, you know?
Black Moon and Greyhawk were both fun houses, but Joe the Lawyer's realistic approach had its own appeal.
Yeah.
A dash of history and archaeology in the dungeon.
Absolutely. When I make a dungeon, when I'm designing it, I had to figure out no matter what is living in there now, let's say it's a lost whatever the fuck from 2,000 years ago, but inhabiting an hour orcs, goblins, trolls, whatever. The dungeon itself has to make sense as to its original design. I need to know as a DM, what was this room? What was that room? What was this room? And how do they all interconnect together and why, based on who lived there 2,000 years ago, which would explain the architecture, the things that were left behind, the traps, the tricks, the rooms, whatever it is that's still there that the goblins have taken over. Like, to me, that needs to make sense. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much right the way I look at it. You know, the archaeology, the history has to make sense. And that's one thing Malazewski tried to do in some way with Dwimmermount, but no, he didn't do it well. He didn't do it well, I don't think.
Well, I think that the problem with Dwimmermount was the initial premise that you were going to use the tables from the back of the DMG, which were there to create random dungeons, and say, well, I guess 60% of every dungeon room should be empty.
Yeah.
That is not how most adventures were written. If you bought adventures from TSR the day, they were making an empty room usually had something else going on in it anyway. You just didn't have an empty room, and I know as a young GM, a young dungeon designer, empty rooms were the bane of my players. It's like, fuck that, it can't be empty. I got to search the shit out of this.
Yeah, and they spend 3 hours of game time in there thinking there must be something, and you blown half your game night by giving them 3 empty rooms, and it just pisses them off at the end of the day. Eventually, you just got to tell listeners, you're never going to find the fucking thing in there. Give it up. Move it along.
Matt Jackson, there is no win in RPGs. It's about the fun, the story we make while we play. Joe is insane. I could break that down but Joe being insane?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. That was my brother wrote that when you're listing all the old TV shows like Barney Miller. Was Starsky and Hutch real?
No, Starsky and Hutch was not real, nor was Magnum PI. Let's see. What was the more recent one? Oh, Third Watch, which actually they filmed a lot of it in the command that I was working in as a sergeant in the 2002, 2003. And that was not. It was an interesting show. It wasn't fucking accurate. Did I enjoy watching The Rookie on TV a couple of years ago? I watched most of the first season with what's his name from Firefly. I don't.
Oh yeah, that dude, Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
Good actor.
No, listen, was it interesting? Certainly. Was how accurate it was? I don't know. LAPD. I suspect it wasn't all that accurate. But you don't. Here's the thing: to tell a good story is not the same as telling an accurate story. And an accurate story is not necessarily going to be entertaining. So to keep, you keep like when they take fiction and they take a book and they make it into a movie, does it convert 100%? Never, never. I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings trilogy on screen, but it was not the same story that I read back in the day. And The Hobbit I didn't really enjoy on screen, and I enjoyed it a lot better as a
Hobbit sucked.
if you can find it for The Hobbit, there is a BBC audio play out there.
Oh yeah.
I used to own the cassette tapes, but they finally degraded. But you can find the BBC audio tapes. Man, my God, I listened to them back when I was in the academy back in '96. It was amazing. It's the best presentation of The Hobbit, but it's true to the book. It is very true to the book. There's none of these liberties taken for the big screen. Let's do a romantic interest between a dwarf and an elf.
Yeah. I never got in. I didn't think The Hobbit was done well, but I liked The Lord of the Rings. Even though I knew they took liberties with certain shit, I liked what they did. It was an entertaining movie to me. It was because I hadn't read The Lord of the Rings since I was 16. So when they came out in 2001 or whatever, I'm like, it's been 25 fucking years. So I don't care. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't remember it. My brother did, he had his disagreements about it, but he was more into Lord of the Rings, though. I'd imagine Rob Connolly, who's huge into Lord of the Rings, probably had disagreements as well. I don't know, maybe Tim could speak to that. He knows Rob better than me in that regard, but I thought it was just entertaining. But The Hobbit, it was too long and drawn out for the purpose of making 3 movies out of a 128-page book. I mean, Jesus Christ.
No, the book was longer than 128 pages.
Part of me is like tiny compared to Lord of the Rings.
It was about 400 pages. The Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Get out of here.
It's a sizable book, but it's about maybe 1/4 the size of the trilogy.
Yeah.
But and The Hobbit is written in a slightly different style. It's written to be approachable to younger kids, whereas Lord of the Rings I think is more geared toward young adults and adults, whereas The Hobbit is something that you could read as a bedtime story.
Yeah. I think it was made for kids. It was a children's story, So yeah. I don't know. It just sort of burned me. Going back to the whole dungeon design thing too. Just the other thing that bugs me about it is random encounters. Now I get that sometimes the DM wants to throw a random encounter at a player because they're dawdling too long in a room, and so 6 skeletons wander down the hallway and kill them or try to kill them. Now, where the fuck did they come from? Like, it has to make sense within every dungeon has an ecology, right? Every dungeon has a system of how it works. The best one I've ever seen that did this well was Jeff Talanian's Castle Zagig. I've talked about it before. It's fantastic fucking adventure. Everything made sense. Jeff and I think a lot alike. I realized that when I was reading his Ash system, Astonishing Source and Source of Hyperborea. Like, I'm reading his rules and I'm reading the way he parses his words extremely carefully. And I'm like, this motherfucker, because I say to myself, why did he write it this way? And then I think, I'm like, that's exactly why. It makes total sense and it fits logically with everything else. And so when he wrote, I guess, Zagig, to me, made complete and total sense because it has its own ecology that makes sense. Which goes back to random encounters. Some of them make no fucking sense. Why are the 6 zombies walking down the fucking hallway in a place that's populated by civilized beings? Where the fuck did they come from? Why are they there? Why? How come they? Sometimes literally, where did they come from? They appeared in a hallway that has no other entrances or exits, which means there must be a secret door that the zombies somehow knew of, opened up and came through, which the players are not searching for because they're saying, where the fuck the zombies come from? Must be a secret door, right? And so it just doesn't make any sense to me.
See, I always preferred the idea of random events. So not an encounter, a random. Now the event could be an encounter, or it could be a breeze coming from, like, where's this breeze coming from? It makes no sense. Or, oh wait, we heard a sound coming from that hallway. Let's go investigate. I'd rather have that be part of the mix than just encounters.
Yes.
But again, as Dungeons and Dragons was created, it was created for players that came in from wargaming. Mm-hmm. So it was more about the wargaming aspect, and in some ways, it was wargaming with the idea of flipping the script away and saying, listen, I know you always like want to fight and kill shit and take their stuff, but you know what's more effective than killing shit and fighting and taking their stuff? Avoiding shit
Yeah,
and taking their stuff.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and that flipped the script for a lot of these old school gamers that came from wargaming, because you're avoiding, and that's different. That was a huge change. My players were always of the idea of you got to kill everything, because things that you don't kill, the experience points left behind. But most of your experience points were coming from gold anyway, gold and magic.
Yep, yep.
So
That really sets the tone of a game. The way a DM says players get their most XP determines the type of and tone of game you get. You get a much more swords and sorcery style Fritz Lieber, Lankmar, Fafhrd and the Grey Mauser style game. When you say it's about you get more XP from the gold than you do from the killing of the thing, that more than anything else gets you an old school feel, right? So that is clutch, I think. And I understand, like, not story game elements, but I guess, what do you want to call it? Like when you achieve a certain thing that doesn't necessarily have to do with gold or killing the thing, but you could almost call it a chapter, like a completion of a chapter of your whatever campaign or something. You've saved the princess, bonus 500 XP. I get that makes sense, right? For achieving a goal or something like that.
right.
But it shouldn't be the big thing. I think it should be more like if you're running a swords and sorcery kind of style thing with that comes down to gold, because that's what the characters are after. They want to live the life. They want to, they want to get back to Waterdeep and spend it on hookers and blow. You know what I mean? That's what they want to do, right? And so yeah, that's what I'll try to focus on. But it's hard in 5e unless you change the XP tables. You have to change what they're worth and how much you get for each thing and all that. And it's more of a pain in the ass. And,
because that's changing balance. And here's that thing. I know that when I used to run AD&D, 1E and 2E, and Dragon Magazine would have these new classes: the Duelist, the Archer, the Anti-Paladin, whatever. And it was always, these are NPC classes only. Now, why were they NPC classes only? Because they never play tested.
Yeah, exactly.
And they didn't know how it was going to affect game balance. But the reality is, game balance in AD&D was not really game balance. It was we're going to balance thieves out because they're less powerful by making them easier to level. So therefore, they get more powerful quicker, but they're still lame.
Yeah, they still suck. They still suck balls. And then they can't ever say they ever gave a fuck about game balance, because they're the people who put out fucking Unearthed Arcana. All right? With the barbarian's stupid-ass hit points, but the only penalty is that he must destroy all magic items. And anybody who let a barbarian in the game destroy the magic item, fireballed.
And even that, after like level 4, they don't have that problem.
Yeah. So, Cavaliers, give me a break. Cavaliers are badass,
Oh, well, here's the thing. Cavaliers were damn near impossible to run if you actually used the social disadvantages that were built into the class.
Yeah.
But the reality is, who played with that? And everybody just ignored that, right?
Yeah, ignored the armor-specific weapon versus armor.
No, but not even that. I mean, the only character class in my classic gaming that ever had to worry about alignment wasn't clerics, because first of all, nobody played a cleric.
Yeah.
It wasn't rangers. If rangers are no longer good, they become no.
Yeah.
Listen, the ranger is killing evil shit. That we can count them as good.
Yeah.
It was the paladin, because it's just a whole argument of what is a lawful good character going to do, and that became discussions in Dragon and in my group and in other groups and at conventions. Everybody argued that shit out.
Yeah.
But when you came to Cavaliers were even more restrictive, to the point where you just ignored the restrictions. And once you ignored the restrictions that were these social restrictions on a character, then they really had no disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the first thing I did was like, oh, well, if Cavaliers can roll every level to see if they increase their constitution, dexterity, and strength, well, at least I got to give that to other classes, at least 2, their primary and what looks like the secondary attribute. Because you had to include it, because otherwise it was, and for paladins too, it was like, oh wait, if you're a paladin now, you're retroactively a cavalier. It's like, but when I
Pain in
didn't
the
want to
ass.
be a Cavalier, I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It just broke the game. I mean, I love to do spells. I love that was the best
Oh
part of
God,
North.
made an illusionist worthwhile to play.
Exactly. And the other thing I love was the cover. The cover for North Arcana to me was the best D&D book cover I've ever seen. To this day, I love looking at it. I just take a look at that. The dude looking at the book. Oh God, I love that fucking cover. But yeah. The random John Miller. The random dungeon encounter tables in OD&D matched the monsters that were in Castle Greyhawk. Interesting. To make the randoms make sense, they would match the monsters in the area. Interesting. Yeah, that goes back to why, like Matt saying, doors open for all monsters automatically. See, that makes no sense to me. Therefore, it's not logical. It breaks my brain, Matt.
And you think about it, right? Like you got kobolds and goblins, which are weaker creatures that can open up these doors without a problem, and yet here's your fighter with 17 strength.
Yeah.
Probably only has a chance of 1 in 3.
Yep. Made no sense. Exactly.
I mean, now, do any of the old school rule sets include that? Really? Oh, does anybody even play with those numbers? And that's something else to think about.
No, they didn't play with that, but they said that women can never have a higher strength than a man, right? And so, I mean, imagine putting that in a rule set today, mother God.
Well, yeah, women couldn't have better. And here's the thing: I think if you said, "All right, well, women have a maximum of 1850 exceptional strength," which is still, you think about it, huge.
Yeah.
But they get a +1 to their dex, or they get a +1 to their charisma. I don't think you ever would have heard complaining about it. But
except that they think charisma sexist or whatever. It just
right. But it was played as sexist back then.
Yeah, it was
until they brought in comeliness. And once they added comeliness with North Arcana, then it really became a shit show for. I'm gonna make comeliness my dumb stat. I'll just be an ugly fuck. I'm not looking to get laid anyway. Dude, in my campaign, none of your PCs are getting laid because I am not role playing that out. So just you know what? To then I used to do is like, all right, you roll your six attributes, and then you roll comeliness afterwards. Comeliness is its own. It doesn't get adjusted. It is just we didn't. Oh, jeez.
Cavs were the reason I stopped playing AD&D, says Matt. Yeah, Cavaliers. Yeah. I mean, they fixed a lot in second edition when they went there, but don't forget, second edition was also the era of good must always triumph over evil. There are no such things as demons and devils because we don't want to get persecuted by the religious nut jobs. Yada yada yada. Right. So that was,
no more assassins.
Yeah. You could take away assassins, and I mean, it's just it's a shit show. Dungeon World is Mythic Underworld. I didn't like Mythic Underworld. Yeah, I get it, Dave. I get it, Dave Betzek is saying the dungeon is the Mythic Underworld. But I never liked the Mythic Underworld. I don't got it. I wanted my underworld to make sense. I wanted my up above world and my below world all to make sense. Logical and rational and predictable so I could beat it.
Well, but it has to make sense within the continuity of the fictional existence, because my assumption always was that these dungeons were designed and built by a lost civilization thousands of years ago. So no current species or race, human, elf, dwarf, gnome, goblin, hobgoblin, they didn't have knowledge. They were just inhabiting these places. They didn't build it.
That makes total sense.
And that allowed certain conceits then to be acceptable.
But in my weird brain, I have to figure out why the rooms were laid out in such a way according to what was the original designer's goals and what was this place used for 3,000 years ago. That's where I have to be in my head in order to even use that in the game. Because again, I need to be able to predict, this was the blankety blank from the Lost Empire of yada yada. And therefore, because it's a blankety blank, it must have this kind of a setup layout series of rooms. And this one, if this was the kitchen, it's probably connected to the whatever the hell. And therefore I could predict the next few rooms so I could win.
I only think that level of detail is important if it's going to affect the adventure. If it's not going to affect the adventure, then that conceit can just be, behind the screen, the Wizard of Oz.
Well,
Don't look behind the
and
screen.
that comes down to what kind of group you're playing with. Because if playing with adventurers who don't give a fuck, a group of players who never think like that or don't get it or don't care or whatever,
Oh yeah.
they don't need that to that level. But like in my head, my warped head, I'm always trying to figure out. Like I can't turn that part of my brain off that tries to figure out based on this room being such and such and the room over there being this and that. That must mean that this place over here has to be blah blah blah, right? I can't turn that off, man. Take
Well,
it easy, too.
Later, Tim. And you know what? And that's part of the reason why I think DCC RPG didn't fit you very well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Because you
Absolutely.
weren't able to. It was too fiddly. It was too random, and therefore it didn't have the ability so you could pre-plan stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna cast a fireball spell, and I might get a fireball the size of my fist, or I could have one that's a nuclear detonation. It's going to destroy half the world.
Yeah.
Well, that fucking sucks.
Yeah. That's mad scientist level experimenting in a laboratory, mixing two things together and seeing if it blows up or if he gets a bigger dick from it. You know what I mean? I don't need that in my game. I want to know what's going to work and how big my dick is. That's what I need to know before I go into it.
And David, I can't disagree, Joe, but I think there's room for both types of dungeons.
Well, absolutely, because it depends on the type of group you're playing with and what they're looking for. You know what I mean? Which goes back to our original proposition of would I like to be the DM for myself, or would I like to be a player in my own campaign? I think that you have to have that sync, right? And so yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me.
So Matt's like, now I understand why Joe only plays fantasy games, science fiction. With alien weirdness, he would not be able to figure it all out.
Plus, I just never was into. I like sci-fi books, like the old Asimov stuff, the
Oh,
robot
that was
series.
good stuff. Foundation. Yeah.
Foundation. Now you look at Foundation and you look at Dune, and you'll see why I loved those so much. If you listen to everything I've said tonight, right? Foundation and Dune have an intricate system. Like Foundation is based upon predicting how human societies will develop over the next X thousand years, right? That's what Foundation is premised upon, using sociology and history and every other social science there is, how it will develop and making predictions for it. And Dune is just, I mean, if anybody who's ever read Dune, you know what I'm talking about. And you have to describe what that's all about. You know what I mean? Yeah, Matt, your games drive me nuts sometimes. I used to drink a lot when I played your games, dude. Now I'm not drinking a lot. I'm just thinking a lot, you know? So, yeah. Not going to win the novel. No, but winning the novel, you don't have to win the novel. It's just an enjoyable ride, man. I still love the Dune series. One of the greatest sci-fi series of all time, especially God Emperor of Dune. That's where he talks about all the various things that I'm into. God Emperor of Dune set my brain on a certain course that I think it broke me for anything else. You know, it's an amazing book. An amazing book. You ever read that, Eric? You ever done the Dune series?
Oh my God. Dune series.
You got to try at some point, man. I used to read it once every semester when I was in college. There was this used bookstore near the college, and I would go there and I'd buy a used book, Dune, you know, and I'd read that book. And by the time I graduated college, I had 8 books of Dune. It's the best and gave the other 7 away.
I read a lot of fantasy when I used to read novels. After I had chemo like a dozen years ago, my brain got rewired, and I used to do a novel a week. Honestly, God, I read a book a week. If I was on vacation, I could read a book in like a day and a half, 2 days. And now, if I read a novel a year, it's a lot. But even when I was reading like that, I could devour fantasy.
Yes.
Science fiction was always more of a slog, even good science fiction, because with fantasy, you go into it with the idea of I'm going to let myself go in for the ride. It's like a roller coaster.
Yep.
You're going to go for the trip. But with science fiction, I was like, I have to buy into the science aspect. Sometimes you had trouble. I mean, you had the books that, oh God, what was the series with the Executioner, which was kind of like dark fantasy and kind of like dark science fiction at the same fucking time? And I can't remember the name of it, but I think that broke me from science fiction for a while because it was weird. But movie wise, or watching on demand TV series, I prefer science fiction over fantasy. for the most
Interesting.
part.
Interesting. I don't know why you would call Marvel the new Marvel Avengers shit. That's more sci-fi, I guess. It's not fantasy, even though you got some wizards or whatever that. You know what I mean? It's more. Yeah, there's aliens. It's got to be so sci-fi by default, right?
Yeah,
Technology.
what is superheroes, right? Superheroes is it's a genre that kind of touches on fantasy, right? Wasn't what like a seventh level fighter in AD&D? Wasn't he a superhero?
Yeah, by name. Yeah, yeah.
It's like you're a
Yeah.
hero at level 4, but you're a superhero now.
It's one of the stupidest things in D&D ever. I just looked at a book of like the thesaurus, for various names to call a wizard or a magic user, and they looked at a thesaurus and just went probably in order that they were listed in there and just banged them out for the wizard, or the magic user.
Conjurer, enchanter,
Yeah.
everything but illusions, because illusions is going to be their own class until second edition. Listen, do I think that level names have a place? I think there should be a level name for first level, fourth or fifth level, whatever you consider to be that next tier. It's like, mid-level gaming, fourth through seventh or fourth through eighth, and then name level. And that's the point where your character can start, getting titles and land.
I think
and all that stuff.
You just nailed it. The name level is the title. You're a duke or a lord or a prince or whatever the hell. You got to earn the title. It's not a title that gives you by default by being a certain class. It's a title you carve out a chunk of the world that's your own, and therefore you are the archmage of the free province of whatever the hell, or you are the chief executioner, assassin, whatever of the king of so and so, right? So that's the title that you earn, But hey, speaking of Marvel though, man, did you watch any of that WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier shit?
I haven't, and it's not from lack of desire. It's just I know how Rich and I are, so I got to find a day because if it's good. The last series that we binge watched was what the Karate Kid.
I like that. Yeah,
Cobra Kai, and
it's pretty fucking good, entertaining.
We binge watched 3 seasons in like 4 days.
Yeah,
and it was just like, holy shit!
I did the same thing. It was entertaining.
The WandaVision, I gotta admit, I'm not all that excited to. It isn't like, it's the Mandalorian and we can't miss an episode. It's like the WandaVision. I was like, all right, I'll watch it at some point.
Here's the thing with Wanda. I never cared about her. I never cared about her as a character.
Right.
Like she's the character who started as a 20th level wizard. She never earned a goddamn thing. She didn't have any development or any character arc, and then she became like super goddess. Now, I'm not one who's ever read in my life. I've never read a comic book, neither DC nor Marvel nor anything, right? Ever. Okay. And so I have no investment in they must stay true to this series of comics or that. I don't give a shit. To me, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was my only taste of Marvel. And so I liked the Kevin Feige arc, right? And I liked the characters who we grew with, the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, the people who had their own movies, or who are like Black Widow, who grew within the movies. You know what I mean? From movie to movie. And you felt connected to them because you saw them over a series of movies, Captain America, things like that. And you got invested in the character. Wanda didn't do jack shit for me. She was a 20-level wizard who came into the game late to join the group, in D&D sense. And then I just didn't care about her, didn't give a shit about her. And and so that was I never watched the show. I couldn't care less about her goddamn mental breakdown because Vision died. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck?
I'm a bit more interested in the second series, Winter Soldier.
Yes.
That I like the characters when they were introduced, and I think there's more depth to what's going on, and probably more action. WandaVision, with few trailers I saw, I was like, I'm confused. I don't really see look at that. They're playing 1950s sitcom household. Same. So that's just freaking awesome. That's what I need to do when I'll probably carve out time, maybe on Monday when Rach has her 11-hour workday. I'll watch the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League.
I saw that. I liked it. Really liked it.
I've heard it's long, but good. And I've actually heard people say that it should have been broken down into like a 4-episode series, like a mini series.
Could have been definitely, but I just it was enjoy. I just watched it, sat down in front of the TV, just got the bowl of popcorn, just said I'm prepared to do this thing right now tonight. And I tell you, it made sense. It was better than that abomination that they called the Justice League they put out a few years ago.
Oh yeah, that came out in 2017. I didn't watch it until last year because there was really no. I had, and I was a DC fanboy growing up. DC was my comic books. If I read Marvel comics, it was a rarity, and it's usually because I read all my DC comics. I guess I'll pick up the latest issue of Daredevil. But I would like to think that this Snyder Cut could lead to similar movies, but it looks like that's just.
They think they cut it off at the legs because basically Zack Snyder made Warner look bad because Warner greenlit a whole nother different kind of series of movies like Wonder Woman 84, which I didn't see, but I heard sucked ass.
Yeah, I heard the same. The first one was good. That's the one I took my niece to.
I like that one. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
That was my first time with like that stadium, that awesome seating.
Oh, and,
half an hour into the movie, Shannon turns to me and goes, "Uncle?" I'm like, "Yeah, Shannon. You have to go to the bathroom?" She's like, "No, I think we need to leave." I go, "Why?" "I don't think this movie is appropriate to a child of my age."
How old was she?
6.
Pretty aware kid. 6? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think she was 6.
Maybe not.
And I went, "Wait," but so I go, "Shannon, try to stick it out." And then 2 minutes later, she's like, "Uncle?" I'm like, "Yeah, Shannon." She goes, "Yeah, they're shooting people, and I don't think that I should be watching this. You don't want you wouldn't want to be responsible."
That's pretty cool, man.
And I'm like, "All right, cool. Shan, let's it's like I bite the bullet. Take your popcorn with you. You got shit behind, man.
$48 bag of popcorn that you
have. Yeah. Jeez.
I still sneak shit in every chance I can. I don't give a fuck. I don't care how much money, how broke or how poor or how rich I ever am. I'm always sneaking candy into the movies because fuck $19 bags of popcorn. Fuck all that. No way, man.
Dude, my favorite was sneaking a full hero in. If you can sneak a hero in, it's a lot better than eating popcorn.
Nice. I snuck a few flasks of stuff in there. Never a fucking hero sandwich.
I snuck the hero in. I had it underneath my arm as I went through underneath my jacket. And I was like, And then once you sit down, the first thing you do is you pop up. I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is better than any fucking popcorn."
Definitely snuck a bag of nips. Nips, the little things. Booze or whatever, and you sit there, you drink some of the soda. Next thing you know, you're dumping the nips into the soda, and whatever. It just gets you through.
Whatever floats your boat.
Floats your boat or your brain cells. But I tell you, I watched the first 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier are out, and I watched the first one and I was just depressed, and I watched the second one tonight just to give it another shot, a fair shot, and it was still depressed. It was like I sent a text to my brother. I'll read it to you because it's pretty much sums up what the hell I think the whole thing was all about. I said, "I just watched episode 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's still depressing, even more so than episode 1. Everyone I liked is now dead. Tony, Captain America, Black Widow. I feel like I went to the Super Bowl and watched the big game and had a great time. And now we are sitting here watching the janitors clean up the garbage off the floor of the cheap seats area." That's what the Falcon and Winter Soldier feels like. I loved the characters, the arc of the entire Avengers story, the whole Feige thing, but it's over. As my brother said above, it's like beating a video game and then going back after you win the video game and doing side quests. Who the hell does that? Who cares? The cool guys are dead. Now you got the Spanx left and they're doing shit. And it's like, while I like the characters of Falcon and Winter Soldier, I do like them. I just wish they were still part of a grander thing that never ended. I want Stark to be alive. I want Thor to still have his hammer, not his girlfriend. I want it's a goddamn shame that the actor who played the Black Panther died because he was a phenomenal actor. I loved his character.
That movie was awesome.
Amazing.
I gotta say, very, very well done. Holy crap.
Yeah. I just never want that arc to end. I mean, why did they have to kill him? I don't know. With the multiverse bullshit that they could do, Who knows? Maybe they're still alive somewhere. And once Marvel realizes that nobody gives a fuck about the new shit they're putting out, maybe they'll do the multiverse thing, and Feige will bring a version of the young Captain America back, who's not an ancient man, and they'll bring Tony Stark back from some alternate reality, and they'll bring Loki back, and they'll have Thor back with his fucking hammer instead of his girlfriend. Maybe they'll do something like that again. But yeah, it's like watching a sort of Gimli's adventures post Lord of the Rings. Who gives a shit? Exactly. So, yeah.
What I want to do, and I've seen the list online. There's a list for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Each movie in order of not necessarily when it's released, but when you should watch them.
Timeline starting with Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah,
or probably
I think it's probably Captain Marvel is probably yeah. Well, and you watch it in order. And supposedly it's like a different experience because it all progresses. Now, I gotta say, like Captain Marvel wasn't the horror I thought it was going to be when I finally got around to seeing it.
Yeah.
It had some moments, but she, as an actress, she just isn't very likable.
She has a 3 charisma in D&D terms. Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
So, but yeah, I'd like to try that one week to set one week of being unproductive.
Yeah.
Watch that straight through.
I got 2 movies a day, kind of a thing. Yeah, that's perfect. That's the week you don't like. You take in the entire week. You take 3 showers and you don't shave and you barely brush your teeth. That's that kind of week you're talking about there. You know what I mean? Yeah. David says most of the actors are just done playing the characters. Tell you what, you pay them enough, they're not done playing the characters. These guys, they got mansions to support. They might want a new mansion. They got a divorce. Guess what? They lost half their fortune. They better go and fucking make another movie. So, yeah. You pay them enough, you're good to go. Yeah, piece of wood. Yeah, that's true. She's. I didn't watch the Captain Marvel one, and I didn't watch Ant and Wasp Girl or whatever the fuck it was called. Whatever the hell that was.
Weren't there 2 Ant-Man movies? I thought there were.
I watched one of them, and it was like that, whatever. And then I didn't watch the Wasp one because I couldn't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't think it's the second one either.
Filler, it just seemed like a complete filler thing. Yeah,
yeah. I think at my last North Texas, we had an opportunity to watch either Aquaman or Captain Marvel. And I was like, let's watch Aquaman.
Yeah. Aquaman was pretty good. I liked it. There was a thing going around. I don't know if you're familiar with White Zombie, Rob Zombie. Remember that whole group, Barrett?
Yes.
That there was a thing going. I saw the other day, and they had a picture of Rob Zombie looking like utter shit, and he said Rob Zombie is what is what Aquaman, the guy who plays Aquaman, looked like if you stuck him in a microwave for half an hour.
Oh shit!
It's true. Looks like shit, man. Every time we saw Rob Zombie in concert, he'd get up there. My brother, how many times do we see this guy? Every fucking time. We even saw him one time with the Ramones, for fuck's sake. I couldn't believe it. Rob Zombie Ramones joint mix there, and every time we saw Rob Zombie, he'd play his song, sing whatever. So, I'm sick, got a cold, getting over a cold. Motherfucker, you don't have a cold every time. You just can't sing for shit. You just can't sing, man. Just get over it. Oh man, I'm shocked that Aquaman was this fun. It was a good movie. I liked Aquaman. It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I was happy with it.
Yeah, he was always under the weather. My brother says exactly. That's what it was. I cannot make it through BP or CM. What's BP or CM? Captain Marvel and what's BP? What the hell's BP, man? 3 times and cannot make it. Val push. What was it? BP, man? I have no idea. Somebody tell me what BP is, but he tried to watch it 3 times and couldn't do it. I was shocked that Aquaman was fun as it was. Yeah. BP. What the hell's BP?
Black Panther.
Oh, Black Panther. I liked Black Panther. I really enjoyed that.
I thought Black Panther was actually pretty well done. I was surprised.
Yeah.
And it wasn't thrown at you like, we're going to give you all these social constructs that thrown in your face. No, actually, it was
it's a good fucking movie.
Yeah, and it was. If it had a message, the message was, "Do your fucking work." It's just,
yeah.
Because even when shit's handed to you, you still got to earn it.
Still got to earn it, exactly. That's what Wanda never did. She never earned any of her shit. That's why I never liked her. You got to earn your shit. You got to start as a first level character. That's why I really don't like entering campaigns in a higher level character into an established group because I feel like a bullshitter. Yeah, the CG. Oh, if you didn't like the CG in Black Panther, I'm not a connoisseur of that kind of stuff. I don't really care that much as long as it makes sense. I mean, shit, if it was up to me, I'd still be playing Doom 2. I don't care about graphics and video
Oh
games,
God,
CG and movies. I love Doom 2, and I still got it on Steam. I can still play it once in a while. you know,
breakout
love
Doom.
that. I got sucked into a zillion hours of Doom 2 back in the day, man. But yeah. Listen, man, I'm talked out. We were talking almost 2 hours here.
Well, we're hitting the hour and 44-minute mark.
Yeah. Kicking ass, man. Kicking ass. It was a
All
good
right. Well,
conversation.
yeah, no, it was good. It was very good.
A lot of participation. Thank you, guys.
Yes, I really appreciate it. Folks, for the listeners, the podcast side, podcast is going to be going up. Well, if you're watching this and it doesn't make a difference, and if you're listening to it, you'll be like, oh, wait, it was delayed. Of course, I have a podcast. I got the vidcast. I got the blog. I'm trying to schedule myself so I can be sane. And if you know me personally, you know that sanity is not going to be easy. So I generally do the vidcast in the evening. So what I am doing now is that blog posts probably during the day hours. Vidcast will go up in the evening, or maybe late afternoon, depending on how I'm feeling. And then the podcast of the previous day will go up, generally speaking, around noon or earlier on the podcast of the following day. So if you're listening to this and going, well, Tenkar didn't put this up right away. Yeah, because I'm trying to make myself sane and not go crazy at night, realizing I haven't done all this shit. It has to be in by midnight. So yeah, a little slowdown. If you want to hear it right away, YouTube is going to be up earlier. But I share it out on social media. I don't need to ping social media multiple times for the same crap. It's in a different format. So just to make things a little bit easier. Again, if you are watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, comment. We've all been commenting, so that's been awesome. But really, subscriptions help and likes help because they get us seen by people that would not necessarily find this normally.
Yeah, it absolutely does. If you click the thumbs up, if you comment, even if you just say hi in the comments, if you're listening, just click the thumbs up, say a comment, and click copy the link out to other places or whatever. It's kind of cool,
Yeah. So we really appreciate the support. Joe and I talk multiple times a day, and it's usually about the podcast and the vidcast. So I mean, it really the faith that you all have in us. To do this, I appreciate all the feedback. I read all the comments that I get, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, emails, PMs, on the Discord server. It's been overwhelmingly positive. So I do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Thank you very much, guys.
Yep.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
I will.
Remember, we're in the midst of the pandemic, so use your common sense. Not going to give you instructions besides common fucking sense. Be safe, be well.
It's picking up again. Watch out.
Yeah. Be safe, be well. God bless for all those dice. Knocking on pressed wood. I shall be back tomorrow with my lovely wife, Rach, if we do an episode of Gamer's Health.
Nice. All right, just said hi.
I will. It'll be tomorrow night, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Cool. All right, folks.
Cool.
We'll catch you in 2 weeks. I'll be back next Saturday with Glenn Hellstrom, Old Man Grognard.
Nice.